We're live now.
We're good to go now.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Alcohol Beverage Subcommittee meeting. For those of you who may be new to this venue, especially virtually, the chat is only for the members and staff, please. Those of you who are not members and who are here as an additional resource, perhaps, such as, I think I saw Mr. Akras is here, Thomas Akras from the ATC and the like, and the rest of you, you are here simply as a resource should a member or myself as the chair require additional information. Just a friendly reminder, this is not a hearing, this is our meeting, simply to go over every piece of legislation. With that said, I'm going to start with saying that we do not have the grocery issue bills before us this afternoon. Those are not on the agenda today. I believe there were 3. There are 3 statewide bills we will be taking up in the end. With that said, we will start with, and I think everyone should have the agenda in front of them, with the House local bills. Let's see here. So we will start with House Bill 233, which is the Montgomery County delegation.
House Bill 233, a Class 7 microbrewery license. The not opposed at the hearing, we have a delegation letter. There's an amendment that adds the provision from town of Kensington to go from up to 8 licenses to 20 licenses in that jurisdiction.
And I believe I did not mention, so I apologize. Most of the delegation bills we'll be taking up are those that we have received a delegation letter and there's no opposition. This particular one happens to have an amendment. So is there any discussion on House Bill 2, Delegate Ahrens?
Just a real fast one.
Sure, no, please. This is your time.
I mean, it's a local bill and I appreciate local bills, but are we getting into, when we start looking at a dramatic increase like this from 8 to 20, and I know Montgomery County is bigger than like 9 states, but I do question what we went through with in some parts of Prince George's where we have a plethora of liquor licenses and others. Is there any conversation about that moving this forward?
I personally have not. Other members?
Would Bob know? I mean,
yeah, the other thing I would say is, as far as history, we have Kensington was actually originally a dry area of the county, and then they decided they wanted some hotel and restaurant licenses, and so they allowed up to 8 of those. This actually allows both a Class AK off-sale beer and wine, and also up to 20 licenses from a variety of Class B, C, and D license categories. It's sort of a subclass of the rest of Montgomery County. When Montgomery County decided to open up to things having establishments other than just restaurants, which and also they also got some Class A licenses when Tacoma Park decided to secede from the Better Place, Prince George's County, and end up crossing over into Montgomery.
Okay, it was just a casual comment. Thanks very much.
Yep.
I can answer this question because it jumped out to me. 8 to 20. And I know the town of Kensington is kind of small, but would it be safe to assume that they're going to have these 20 so they don't necessarily have to come back in a couple of years of expansion and things like that?
We had nothing in testimony on that.
Okay.
Perhaps someone from Montgomery could help. I see Amy Salmon from the local dispensary is here, if someone has that.
Good afternoon. Yeah, this Mr. Smith's exactly right. They have been slowly expanding their license, and what happened here, and the reason this is an amendment on this bill is because they ran up against the 8th license. Now, to the town of Kensington may be considering just opening up and being part of the rest of the county, but they essentially chose a number they felt would cover what they need. Will they necessarily go up to 20? I don't think so. I don't know. But really what they are seeking is the potential for a ninth license. And they did not want to have to, that's correct. They did not want to have to come back again. I do suspect maybe sooner rather than later, they may potentially become part of the county, but for now, this is what they're doing.
All right. Then delegation supported, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any other inquiries from the members? Seeing none, hearing none, is there a motion before the Committee on House Bill 233?
On the amendment?
Oh, I apologize, Bob, on the amendment. All those in favor?
Hold the minute. Oh.
Ah,
Those opposed? Seeing none, is there a motion on the bill as amended?
move
Hold the bill
favor on the
as
bill as
amended.
amended.
Second.
Bob, can we just, do we need to do a roll call or can we, we'll do a roll call just so that for those. who-
I don't actually keep them. It's a matter of how many are ayes and how many are nays. We don't record those
There was no
votes.
opposition.
Right. So
Great.
without objection. Okay. The next local bill on the list is one where there's a delegation letter and there are no amendments, but there was opposition at the hearing. That's House 239, Class D beer and wine license, farm breweries and limited wineries. Essentially, this lets the farm breweries and the limited wineries sell each other's products, their own or other ones that are around. So I think the three-tier system people had trouble with that.
So I understand when it first was brought up, it was to promote their own product, right, Bob? And
Correct.
now they're seeking to, so now they're basically just going to become a bar. I
Well,
mean,
they're getting the Class D tavern license is what they're doing under the bill. But those Class D licenses, Class D beer and wine licenses, would allow them to sell their own product as well as products manufactured by a holder of either a Class 4 limited winery license or products manufactured by the holder of another farm brewery license. It doesn't say that they're limited to the county. Those would be presumably from any place in the state.
Right. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is that when they first opened, they were only established to sell their own product
That's correct.
initially.
Much as wineries were established to do their own product when we first had the winery modernization.
Can we hold this, Madam Chair?
Yes, I'm sure there's going to be just, yes.
Okay.
That's being held.
Okay, next on the list is 281.
Yes, House Bill 281. This is from Washington County, and it repeals the termination date of June 30th, 2023 for a special event permit that may be issued to specified wineries in Washington County. Last year, this body voted to increase the number of times in a year that a special event permit may be used by a Class 3 winery or a Class 4 limited winery license holder from 32 to 60. So this repeals the sunset date that was added last year.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Repeat the last part.
I'm sorry. I
I'm
didn't
sorry,
hear you.
Tiffany, can you repeat the last part? It repeals.
Oh, it repeals, there was a sunset provision put on the bill from last year, which increased it from 32 to 60. This bill is repealing that sunset provision. There are no amendments to this bill, and this bill is supported by the Washington County delegation. We got their letter. This bill was opposed at the hearing by the Maryland State Licensed Beverages Association.
Got it.
Which is why it's on the list for discussion.
Delegate Aaron's.
Yeah, I just think, wasn't this one of the COVID things we did last year? Isn't that why we did something like this to help them out with COVID?
Tiffany.
Honestly, I'm going to be honest, I do not remember the reasoning behind it. I know that that Economic Matters, you all passed it without the sunset, and the sunset was put on by the Senate.
Senate, yeah. I think the Senate might have done that. Have the Senate looked at this yet again?
I don't believe that they've had their alcohol day yet.
No.
I'd like to know a little bit more why they did that and how we can move forward with it. I mean, if you guys, are we trying to get these through, Madam Chair, or can we look?
No,
at
this
them?
is definitely every bill here, this is why we start a week after the hearings. These are definitely up for debate. And if you would like to hold it, happy to. You're muted, Steve. Delegate Aaron's, I apologize. You're still muted.
You're supposed to be able to hit the space bar and it's supposed to open you up. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm good with that. If you don't mind holding it, I'd be happy because I think it deserves another look. And I didn't dig into what the Senate did 100%. I'd like to talk to them. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Next bill is House Bill 311, Washington County. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Delegate Howard. Did you have a?
Delegate Walker?
Oh, Delegate Walker.
I was saying, Delegate Howard, did you have a question still?
Oh, no, I was just going to say the last bill was settled legislation, but okay, that's fine. It's been held.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Bob, if we could we find out, because I'm curious, like, was that part of that COVID legislation that we kind of passed to help out?
And no, that was a separate, that was a separate bill. The ones you're talking about were statewide bills, and we'll be taking a look at them later today.
Thank you.
Why the Senate decided the sunset, I do not know. But Tiffany can certainly check with her counterpart across the street.
Okay.
I just vaguely remember something about it. Dr. Walker, I apologize. I thought maybe it was COVID.
Any other, Delegate Carey, were you raising your hand?
No, I was.
Okay. Great. Delegate Branch.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I have a question for Bob. I wonder if you could let us know, just as the chair mentioned, some of those bills that are actually, can you flag us and let us know the ones that are actually trying to become bars with trying to change the, to add on and to sell to one another? Can you kind of just let us know as we get to bills that are doing that so we can deal with them accordingly?
Sure. And I'm sure that both Erica and Tiffany will also be happy to look out for that. The one you're probably talking about, House 1117, Washington County Bill. I don't think we actually have the letter yet with the amendments, which was the one where that would allow the retailers to procure liquor from another retailer.
Mm-hmm.
So that will not be discussed today.
Okay.
Until we get a letter.
Okay.
Okay, so House 311, Class
Yes.
3 winery.
House 311, Washington County Bill that authorizes Washington County to issue a Class D beer and wine license to a holder of a Class 3 winery that one held a Class 4 limited winery license prior to May 31st, 2018, and produces less than 30,000 gallons annually. The holder may only sell wine that the holder produces under its own label for on and off premises consumption. And the license may not be transferred to another owner or for use on any other premises. There are no amendments to this bill, and this bill was supported by the delegation. We got their letter. However, this bill was opposed by the Maryland State Licensed Beverage Association.
Okay, so supported by a delegation, there is a letter and one opposition.
Correct.
You have a couple of questions.
Delegate Aaron's and then I'll go with Delegate Howard and then.
Delegate Howard, yeah, I had a chance.
I'd just like to hold this bill in the letter of opposition. It talks about this being a new precedent, and I'd like to, quite frankly, dig into that a little bit.
Sure. Do you still want to ask your question, Delegate Aaron's?
Yes, if that's okay with you, Madam
Yes.
Chair.
Yes.
Okay, I believe that I have a note in my notes, something about House Bill 924 kind of addresses this. That's something I picked at the hearing. Is that right, Bob? Or
That's a statewide bill in Delegate Valderrama's name.
that's it?
I
Okay.
don't think that this is a grandfathering a particular winery in Washington County. It's not. I don't think it's quite the same as the content, the deferral of the content requirements, which for another few years, which is what House Bill 924 is about.
That was my note. Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, but this is a Class 3 winery, and it had a Class 4. So,
All right. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Next, we have Bob, House Bill 465, Harford County Resort Complex License. I'm
okay,
sorry,
Tiffany.
It's okay. House Bill 465 from Harford County establishes a resort complex license in the county. The Board of License Commissioners may issue one resort complex license to a person owning, leasing, or operating a resort complex. The license authorizes the license holder to sell wine, beer, and liquor from certain locations. The initial license fee is $3,500, and beginning in 2023, the annual license fee will be $6,000. This bill was not opposed at the hearing. The bill is supported by the Harford County delegation. We have their letter, and there is one amendment to the bill. The amendment has it does a couple things. The first, it allows the board to determine the minimum number of employees from each outlet in the resort complex. It must complete alcohol awareness training. And the amendment also alters the annual license fee from $6,000 to $4,000. And finally, the amendment makes this a Harford County delegation bill.
Any questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Delegate
I believe
Price.
that was negotiated by all the parties. Is that right, to 4,000?
Oh, correct, sorry.
Is that right? Yeah,
Correct.
I'm fine with it.
Any other questions, comments? Is there a motion?
I move the bill, Madam Chair.
On the amendments?
On the amendment, move the amendments.
Second.
Great. We move the bill favorable as amended.
Move the bill as amended.
Second.
Is there any opposition? Seeing none. Great. Favorable as amended. 493, Harford County Service Under Stadium License.
Yes, House Bill 493 is an emergency bill from Harford County that repeals the requirement that an individual may serve beer, wine, and liquor from a Harford County stadium beer, wine, and liquor license only in a plastic, styrofoam, or paper container, and authorizes an individual to serve beer, wine, and liquor by the drink and by the bottle for on-premises consumption. This bill was not opposed at the hearing. The bill is supported by the Harford County delegation. We have their letter, and there is one amendment to the bill. The amendment authorizes the individual to serve beer, wine, and liquor in a glass container in an area in the stadium designated by the license holder to serve a special event. The amendment also makes this bill a Harford County delegation bill.
Just for clarification, I was recalling the hearing. It was because they were talking about, when you said special event, like certain areas of the stadium where it wouldn't, like you wouldn't want the glass in the.
Yeah, no, it would be for like a wedding or something.
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
they put it off to the side, but not for regular events.
So questions
Move the amendment.
Second.
on the bill as on the amendment? Any opposition? Seeing none. On the bill as
Bill as
amended.
amendment.
Second.
Any opposition to the bill as amended on 493? Seeing none. Great. Favorable as amended. House Bill 520.
Okay, House Bill 520 from, I'm sorry, did you say something, Madam Chair?
No, I was just saying the county. Sorry.
Okay, House Bill 520 from Harford County decreases the license fee from $10,000 to $4,000 for a stadium beer, wine, and liquor license in Harford County. This bill was supported by the Harford County delegation. This bill was partially opposed at the hearing. We didn't have anything written from anyone. However, there was testimony that the liquor board might be opposed to this bill. Also, and there is one amendment to the bill, and the amendment makes the bill a Harford County delegation bill.
Vice Chair Walker.
So on this bill, what this bill is basically doing is just reducing the fee that we charge for a license, right?
Correct.
And I didn't know, when I was listening to the testimony, I was always under the assumption, like, and this is for that Ripken Stadium, right?
Correct.
Yes, it is.
And the state kind of partnered along with them and put a little investment up in that property as well, right? I'm assuming some of it, the revenue we thought we would recoup would be from some of the fees we would get from licenses and things like this. So, well, I know Delegate Branch brought a good point, you know, comparable sizes and everything else, but I don't remember the state being involved in minor league stadiums like we were for the one up in Aberdeen.
Is that a question for me?
It's a question of fact,
Okay.
statement. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay. I don't, is there anybody
Nothing.
here in the audience?
I was just questioning why they're reducing it. That was my only question.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. I don't think we should
I mean,
necessarily
that's a
reduce.
big gap. Just,
Madam Chair, can we just hold this one too, since we're just going to work?
sure. But I do have a quite clarifying question, Tiffany, which my question was, why was it like, what was it 4,000?
Yes, it's going from
Last-
10,000 to 4,000 and the test, oh, I'm sorry, you can ask your question.
I couldn't, I tried to recall testimony, but I can't remember everything. So I was trying to see if
So-
they had a justification for it.
So their justification was the other stadiums that are, you know, around their size pay far less. I think they said like M&T or what, some of the Baltimore ones pay like maybe 1,500 or something like that. A couple of other there are a couple others that pay around that mark, but nobody pays nearly as much as they pay.
Okay.
That was their theory for asking it. Now, I remember at the hearing, they were asking why $4,000 and nobody could really come up with.
Right. So I guess now my question is, they were okay with it when they started, but now the rationale is because other stadiums that are of their size or smaller are paying less. I mean, is it, I guess, because of COVID, right? Like, so there wasn't as much. Okay. Well, someone has to be held, but Delegate Aaron's.
Yeah, my version of that would be that sometimes when you look at fees and stuff like that, on my world, we try to reduce them as much as possible to allow businesses to flourish. And with those fees being reduced, they might be able to grow their business a little bit more. I'm sympathetic to the minor league teams, and I think they were talking a little bit about how one place is selling this and one place is this. So why not make them a little bit more in line with the others? Because I don't know that the economies are so great right now in sports.
Gotcha. Thank you for that, Delegate Aaron's, Delegate Branch, and then Delegate Howard.
Or was there an issue? I mean, most times when you're changing something, something's causing it or making you have to change it. And I think they should, quite frankly, let us know what that might be. Just like I asked about the other one changing to 4,000, they said that they all had looked at it and had agreed on it. But this one, as staff said, they didn't know really why. So I think we should know why. And based on what Delegate Walker said, I mean, we did invest a lot in that Ripken Stadium. And I think we should at least know their rationale for dropping down to 4. Why not 5? Why not? It could be any number. Was the number snatched out of the air? I don't know. So anyway, that's why one of the reasons I thought we might want to hold it and ask that question.
Sure.
Madam
Delegate
Chair.
Howard.
Sure, I agree with Delegate Branch. I think the bill should be held, but if I remember correctly, it was 10,000. They were trying to knock it down to 4. We didn't really get a clear answer as to why. But if I remember correctly, it was like, well, everybody else is paying like $2,500.
Mhm.
So I kind of got the sense from the testimony that they were trying to drop it down, but also still be a little bit aggressive in the pricing model. So just food for thought.
And I'd say, you know, one of the things that I hear from Delegate Branch all the time is sometimes a card laid is a card played. So unless they have a reason for why they're saying that we need to reduce this because we're this and that, I mean, you know, to go along with Delegate Arntz, I mean, business owners obviously would want to lower your rate that you're paying out if you could, but I mean, you know, kind of a deal's a deal. You gotta have a reason for why you want to change the scope of the deal is what I think.
Delegate Branch, did you have another question? No? Okay. All right, so this bill will be held. Next is House Bill 667, Harford County, Class B beer, wine, liquor license restaurants.
Yes, so House Bill 667 from Howard County repeals the requirement that a restaurant applying for a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license must have been in full-time operation for at least 6 months immediately prior to filing the application. This bill was not opposed at the hearing. The bill is supported by Harford County delegation. We have their letter. And there is one amendment to the bill, which makes the bill a Harford County delegation bill.
Any questions, comments on the amendment? Any in opposition? Seeing none.
amendment.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the bill as amended?
Move the bill as amended.
Second.
Any in opposition on House Bill 667 as amended? Seeing none, that bill has passed as amended. House Bill 671, Somerset County, abolishment of liquor, abolishment of liquor control board.
House Bill 671 repeals the Somerset County Liquor Control Board and transfers all assets from the Liquor Control Board to the county. It establishes the Class A beer, wine, and liquor license and authorizes the County Board of License Commissioners to issue the license and requires any reserve funds of the Liquor Control Board be distributed and deposited into the general fund of the county. There is one amendment that is incredibly technical. It just adds Somerset County name to the first line of the purpose paragraph.
Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none.
The amendment.
Second.
On the amendment, any in opposition? Seeing none, on the bill as amended. Delegate Aaron's.
Yeah, I just wonder I guess that leaves the liquor licenses in the hands of the commissioners. Is that what this bill will do?
It would be, yes, the Board of License Commissioners.
Okay.
Okay, it establishes for the first time a Class A license in the county.
Okay. That's what I meant. Okay, I'm good. Okay.
So on the motion as bill is
Move the bill
amended,
as amended.
Okay.
any in opposition? Seeing none, that bill has moved as amended. House Bill 1115, Baltimore City.
Madam Chair, can we hold this bill? We actually don't have the amendment that we would need to
Gotcha.
discuss.
Okay. House Bill 1117, my birthday.
This one also needs to be held. We don't have the amendment. This is the sidewalk. I think this is one of the ones that Delegate.
Oh, the cafe.
Yeah,
Yes.
there was
I
just
have to-
discussion of removing the language about, the uncodified language about allowing restaurants to buy supply from retail
Retail.
stores.
Right,
We haven't seen the actual text or the amendment or the letter.
got it. Okay. All right. House Bill 1210.
Okay, House Bill 1210 from Baltimore City authorizes the transfer of one Class A beer and light wine license. It's Eddie's of Mount Vernon from the 40th District to the 45th District. This bill was not opposed at the hearing, and the bill is supported by the Baltimore City delegation. We have their letter today. There is one amendment to this bill with which authorizes the board to waive the distance requirements for the location. It's more specifically, it waives the restriction that an existing license may not be moved to a building that is within 300 feet of a place of worship or a school.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, you're saying you still keep that, right? The distance between
No,
the faith of, they're
they're waiving
removing
the requirement. Yes.
For that
And
license.
Delegate Branch, you're from that delegation.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, it's in my district, really.
Oh,
The church is a block away, and it's what they're moving is a grandfathered in license to a supermarket. So it's actually the opening of a supermarket. They're moving, and the supermarket is a block away to where it's moving. So for some reason they want to move, but they're leaving the 46 and moving into our district. So, and the requirement is we go through this. So we're all fine with it. Delegation's okay with it. My district's okay with it, so.
Delegate Howard.
I honestly, Delegate Branch is saying, I was just going to ask how the community felt. That's it.
Oh, yeah, everybody was fine with it. Down in that area is mostly a business area. We're talking about like
Yeah.
Charles Street,
Okay.
Utah Street, down in there. So the community is pretty transient, and so you don't get so the community was fine with the move.
Okay.
In fact,
I was
the hotel.
picturing a neighborhood with a church. right
No,
there.
in fact, they're moving inside of the Belvedere Hotel.
Yep.
Ah,
Area of the Belvedere Hill Hotel, which is their entrance
Right.
will be on Charles Street. So it's
Yeah.
pretty neighborhood market.
And I think the Belvedere also has another similar establishment that's already either grandfathered or exempted.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they have like 13th floor up there, the Owl Bar.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
Get an Al Bar and
I haven't been there in a
Love
long time, Talmadge. We should have a tour.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, maybe we'll take a
Yes.
look before we vote.
It sounds
Erica.
like you guys want an invitation. Done.
Absolutely. Erica and I
Amendment?
used to go up there all the time. It's a great place.
So on the amendment,
Move the amendment.
Second.
Second.
any opposition? Seeing none on the bill as amended.
Move the bill as amended.
Second.
No opposition. House Bill 1210 is approved. House Bill 1308, Howard County.
House Bill 1308 is a Howard County bill that repeals the requirement that the Board of License Commissioners must issue public notice of an alcoholic beverages license application 2 times in 2 successive weeks in 2 newspapers in the jurisdiction before the board may approve an application for the license. Instead, the bill requires that the alcoholic beverage license applicant post a hearing notice, post the hearing notice. So there is, sorry, so hold on. This bill was not opposed at the hearing. The bill is supported by the Howard County delegation. We have their letter. And there's one amendment to the bill. And it specifies that the applicant has to take a photo of the notice that they posted and send it to the board. The board then has to post a hearing notice, not the picture that was taken, but a hearing notice on the board's website at least 15 days before the hearing. And then the board has to provide notice to the hearing to the Howard County Office of Public Information at least 15 days before the hearing. So long story short, what this is doing, the rules now require the board, like somebody from the board and the applicant to both go to the location to post the hearing notice, but this is taking them, the board out and just saying, applicant, you do it and take a picture, tell us that you did it, and then we'll basically handle everything else.
And there was no, it says
No
not
opposition.
here. Any discussion? Questions?
We're not going to run into weird like signage law where they're going to put up some little tiny sign. Like they have their own.
That's what I was thinking.
I'm with you, man. Great
If
minds.
you're leaving it up to the owner.
In
do
Queen
it.
Anne's County, we cannot figure out what is the proper way to advertise a board because somebody's always calling foul. Well, I didn't see it. Well, you don't look at the Bay Times on the 3rd or 31st page if they have it that big. So it's kind of an interesting concept about how to advertise.
Delegate
Somebody-
Branch. I'm sorry, Delegate Aaron's. Delegate Branch,
Muted.
you're muted.
Mute.
Talmadge, you're muted.
Isn't there a requirement for the size of the sign? I know in Baltimore we have that. Sign have to be so big and so on.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if there's a requirement in Howard County or if there's a statewide requirement, or I am not sure. I could look it up, but I am not sure. I will be honest.
Is there hesitation from the committee?
Yes. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. It's a delegation
a-
bill, but you know, some little tiny sign.
Right, no, I get it. So is there a motion would you like to hold this, Delegate Walker?
No, I mean, if I'm in the minority, thinking it's a slippery slope, then hey, I'll take it. But it can go.
The delegation is okay with it. Why, no?
Yeah, I mean that's why I'm ahead. It can go. I'm still just trying to figure out why it seems like they're taking it from their control board to the applicant and kind of trusting the applicant to do the right thing with it. Is that what I'm hearing, Tiff?
That's what you're hearing.
I don't think that's good at all. But
Well, Vice Chair Walker, you're welcome to, if you would like to and get your
Yes,
question
hold it.
answered.
yeah, let's hold
Okay,
it.
all right. I believe Delegate Watson presented the Howard County bills, so if you want to
That's correct.
check in with her, Vice Chair Walker.
We'll do.
Now we're moving on to,
Statewide bills.
yes,
Okay, House 324 from Delegate Darrell Barnes. I think he's hoping a third time the charm. We've passed it out of here twice. over to the Senate, and I think this time he now has a cross file across the street. This requires a study of minority participation essentially in the alcohol industry, but particularly the distribution side, because there's currently only one minority distributor in the state. And there's an awful lot of opportunity, and there's also an awful lot of demand in terms of advertising and sales made at retail to the minority communities. But there isn't as much participation in the actual industry itself. So this committee has seen fit to send it out twice.
Move favorable, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry.
Move
I'm sorry,
favorable.
Councilor Branch.
I'm moving the bill.
Oh, gotcha. I think Delegate Aaron's has a question.
I don't have a question. I think we moved this all the way through the committee last year.
We did twice,
Yes,
last year and the year before. Yep.
yes. Okay, great. Okay, there we go. On the motion, on the bill, any opposition? Seeing none, that bill is moved favorable. All right. I'm gonna, Bob, is it okay if I,
Gonna move around a bit?
yes, I'd like to go with 924, which is under my name.
Right. Chairman's privilege. Yep.
Well, anyway,
This
no, it
is
wasn't
what
that. I
this
wanted
is,
to,
you know. Yeah, back in 2018, we you all did a scheme to change what the former content requirements for what can be labeled as Maryland wine. And you had essentially a 4-year period for existing wineries to be able to redo their supply chain so they could actually find 51% content for juice to go into their wines to be called Maryland wine. And various other things have come along, COVID being one of them, supply chain disruptions. So the bill actually requests a 2-year extension of what was originally a May 1, 2022 deadline for coming into compliance and make it May 1, 2024. There are no amendments and there was no opposition at the hearing.
and I would like, just in case there were going to be any questions, this is really non-contentious, but if Kevin Addix, if you'd like to give a 30-second as to, the need for this.
Sure, and thank you very much, Madam Chair. So Bob explained it very well. The goal has always been to use more fruit in local wine. The old law that was replaced in 2018 said that you had to use 100% fruit unless it was unavailable. And so what happened was it was never completely available. We never had enough fruit. And so we had two industries beginning to grow, one that uses Maryland fruit, one that did not use Maryland fruit and was allowed to exist under that old law. By moving to the 51% hard minimum, that means that every Class 4 winery would be required to be using local fruit, which a golden majority of the industry already complies with. And we have a lot of new grapes going in the ground, but due to COVID and our businesses having to put the money elsewhere, and also due to some invasive species, there's this thing called spotted lanternfly, which has caused a lot of potential growers to not plant grapes over the last 2 years. That issue is being dealt with. So we're going to see more vineyards planting. So I think 2 years we can figure it out.
Great, thank you, Kevin.
You may remember that there used to be a certification requirement by the Secretary of Agriculture that the grapes were not available. And this essentially got the Secretary of Agriculture out of the business of making a declaration every year. So.
Madam Chair, I was going to say, let's go ahead and move this thing, but I got some consideration because you told Kevin he had 30 seconds to talk. And I don't know if you can see it, but I timed him at 1 minute and 10 seconds. Giving me some reservations. 30 seconds is 30 seconds. Not, you doubled it. But
Move the bill as amended. Move the bill, Madam Chair.
No amendments.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Any opposition to the bill 924? Seeing none. Great. 924 is moved favorable. The next bill is the ECM Chairman's Bill. House
Right.
Bill 1253 at the request of the ATC.
Well, it was a joint effort between the ATC and the chair. The chair asked for anything that absolutely needed to be done this session to help clean up the statute that created ATC. Most of the references actually that change are in it's changing the controller over to be either the commission or the executive director of the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission. In most cases, those provisions are actually in the tobacco laws and the master settlement. There is one provision that we actually was suggested by the bill hearing, and the chairman has an amendment to address that. It is in your packet, 1253, 393, 423/1. And what that would do is to take the current law on alcohol awareness training. We had a couple of bills in from local delegations that said that they would take out the specific requirements for alcohol awareness for a couple of types of establishment because they were duplicative. Well, the problem is they're not. These are the barber shops and the beauty salons and the art studios, because the law on alcohol awareness says that they apply if the place has a permanent bar or service bar. And I'm sorry, but if I go to a barber and he's just pulling a can from a six-pack out of his fridge, that's not a bar. So essentially, what the amendment would do would just say that the alcohol awareness requirements apply to a premises licensed to sell alcoholic beverages for on-premises consumption, which is parallel to what we already do for off-premises consumption, or bottle club where the local jurisdiction requires that they have training. So it's essentially really clean up. It seemed to be small enough that it wouldn't require a separate bill. But this was, I think, a Washington County bill and a Frederick County bill that both had provisions where they said, oh, they're duplicative, but they're actually not.
Right. And members, if in case anyone didn't hear me, we have Mr. Akras with us, the executive director of the ATC with us in the event you might need more clarification or the like. And I don't see that anyone has any. So thank you, Mr. Akras, for being with us. Is there a motion on the bill?
On the amendment?
I'm sorry, Bob, on the amendment.
The amendment.
Second.
Any opposition to the amendment? Seeing none, on the bill as amended.
The bill as amended, Madam Chair.
Second.
Is there any opposition? Seeing none, hearing none, House Bill 1253 is moved favorable as amended. According to my docket, the last three bills we have are statewide. I did preface by saying at the beginning of this meeting that House Bill 550, first let me say 550, 854, and 867. I definitely encourage the members here to have a deep discussion. I don't want to hold bills continuously. With that said, I would like to start with House Bill 854 and 867, as those are both, we are sharing those bills with Ways and Means.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, are we secondary, Bob, on both?
We are primary,
primary
on 854 and we're secondary on 867.
Oh, we're secondary on 867. Okay. And we're primary. Okay. So members, I would like to encourage discussion and questions, but I am planning to hold all three that we will be discussing so that the next meeting, there will be a decision one way or the other. I'd like to start with Delegate Wilkins' bill, which is House Bill 854. And if you could give that description for the members again, please.
Sure. House Bill 854 repeals a current scheme for supporting grapes and grape production, wine production in the state, and replaces it with using the excise tax paid on those products that are produced in the state, and replaces it with a scheme to take the excise on production of spirits, wine, or beer produced in the state, to go to a new alcohol manufacturers commission, advisory commission and program in the Department of Commerce. I know there were some questions about the fiscal note. back and forth, but these are excises that are already being paid. And again, it's changing from only supporting wine and grape production in the state to going to help agricultural and related production in all three categories. What I will say is what's also significantly different about this compared to the prior programs, or the existing program would provide direct support perhaps to farmers and producers, whereas this is more towards nonprofits and governmental agencies that are doing promotion of the production and those products.
Thank you, Bob. Delegate Branch.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, I think we might want to have Kevin to come up and say something about this. I believe there are some amendments that he's waiting for.
Okay, I was going to refer to either he or Brett, so whoever would like to discuss the potential amendments that Delegate Branch has just.
Well, actually, there was one amendment we have in the packet, which simply adds a representative of the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission. If there are other ones, that'd be a different matter.
I'm sorry, what is it?
There are amendments to add the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission to the Advisory Commission, but those were brought up at the hearing. They aren't in the bill.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty technical.
And Madam Chair, I think there might be another, so a couple amendments. There might be another one, Bob, that deals with just clarifying that the nonprofits that can use the fund are not just C3s. They're all nonprofits, the way the current fund works.
Yeah.
And then to Delegate Branch's points, there are a few amendments that Delegate Wilkins has reached out to us to help work on. And one of them is to clarify, based on some of the questions that were asked during the hearing, to clarify that none of the funds, and we view that to be the case today, but that none of the funds can be used for advocacy or lobbying services as defined under Maryland law. I forgot the title, but she mentioned that as being important to be very clear about. Mm-hmm. And we agree to that without question. And additionally, to ensure that the report that the commission will be putting up annually will go to the General Assembly, the Speaker, and the Senate President, so that you all get a copy of that as well.
As well as the committee, correct?
Sure, yes.
So they'll know. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Delegate Aronson, then Delegate Howard.
Yeah, just on that, Brad, is that in the bill that it will go nowhere like that? Is that something?
So the bill outlines, and Bob did a good job explaining it. The bill as drafted today is really taking the existing wine and grape promotion fund and the eligible uses for grants under that fund, and shifting it over to commerce to create this new fund. But none of the eligible uses would be permitted to include lobbying. Certainly, if any nonprofit or government unit applied under these eligible uses and then redirected the funds for something not specified in their grant application, one, I think that would be illegal, and two, it's just not it's not permissible. So, but we are, I mean, obviously clarifying that you can't do that to begin with is perfectly fine to put it in black letter law.
When we start looking at these nonprofits, can we look at what they are? I mean, I get you say they have to be related, but I'm wondering how tight that relationship has to be in a bill like this, because this is tax dollars.
Certainly. I mean, Kevin can speak to how the existing fund works, but look, I mean, some of the nonprofits that we're talking about are the nonprofits that are committed to growing the industry and doing the research necessary to cultivate new hops or to cultivate new grapes, or to really promote different trails in communities around the state, to put together videos that market the industry inside and outside the state of Maryland. All of these things will help Maryland get in line with where other states are, like Virginia and Pennsylvania and New York, that have really done a good job of doing exactly this. And so we think it's a matter of time that the state of Maryland should just take the existing wine and grape fund and really expand it to the whole industry to benefit the entire manufacturing industry here in the state, which in turn benefits the retailers and the wholesalers. The more Maryland product that we're selling, the better.
I'm just wondering about if that criteria is drawn out, because I don't want to see us, because we are really close in proximity to Pennsylvania, blah, 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 West Virginia, Delaware. I don't want our tax dollars funding something they're doing, although it's related, but if it can help in I want to make sure it's benefiting Maryland first.
And that's our goal without question. In fact, the commission that we're talking about here, again, there's the Governor's Commission on Wine and Grape Growing that already exists today, which oversees the fund. What we're doing is just adding the brewing industry and the distilling industry to that commission. And that commission's got a member of a member of the Senate, a member of the House, members of the administration. And so they do a good job already of making sure that the grant applications that are coming in are really to benefit the industry. And Kevin can speak to a few specific examples of that. Kevin's got a list. But this is all about Maryland's industry and making sure that if, let's just say, alcohol sales are flat or whatever, if more Maryland alcohol is being consumed, the better in that pie.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Actually, as if I can interject one thing from having done the economic development article revision, across the state, roughly not half the jurisdictions have governmental entities who are doing economic development. In the other half of the counties, they are nonprofit organizations that are doing economic development. The economic development authorities in those jurisdictions are actually nonprofits. They're not governmental entities. So that's one reason for having the spending be able to go to both of those.
Delegate Howard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if none of the money, what are some of the uses of the money, A? And I don't know if you need to outline all of that today, right now, but one of my question would be, if none of this money is allowed to be used for lobbying and things like that, I mean, if it all goes into, if it's in the form of a grant and goes to the business and it goes into a business account, how do you know that any of that money is being used for lobbying? I mean, it almost seems to me that we should, if you're going to apply for this grant and these people that are in the industry are going to direct money to their industry, it almost seems to me that if you're going to apply, one of the things that you need to do in the application will be set up a separate escrow account, some type of, or maybe not, maybe it's interest bearing, who cares, but set up some type of separate account, a standalone account, so we can see exactly where those dollars are being shifted and what those dollars are being shifted to. So that's just my take. And one of my concerns is, I guess what I'm saying is that if you're going to provide this grant and it's, let's say it's $100,000 and a business already has, I don't know, $100,000 in its bank account, now it's got $200,000. How are you bifurcating out that the 10,000 or 5,000 or 6,000 that they give to a political candidate or for lobbying is not part of that grant money?
Kevin, you can explain how it works today, but there are a number of examples of how the grants are being used. And again, this is not being used by individual businesses. It would just be the government units or the nonprofits that are doing it. But Kevin, if you want, and I only say that, Delegate, because in the bill, we specify the eligible applicants are only nonprofits and government units. But Kevin can speak to, the current way it works today, which is similar to how we're proposing in this bill.
Sure, thank you. And Delegate, thanks for the question. So I'm looking at a list of who's received the grants and what they've been for over the last few years from the Wine and Grape Commission. And I'll give you some examples, but I'll say that the applications go through Maryland One Stop, and there's a very specific line of questioning in terms of what specific project or equipment this organization is going to buy or subcontractor they're going to hire to do marketing or PR. And generally, only a portion of the grant is fronted upon acceptance, and it's a competitive grant project. So not all proposals. I know that not all proposals that the wineries or growers or tourism boards have put in get funded, because there's a commission who sets priorities and figures out where they want it to go. But most of the money comes after you turn in the receipts for the activities that you have pledged to do under the grant. So it's not just a transfer of money in. There's a discussion back and forth. There are two sets of reports. There's an interim report midway through the project. Projects are either 1 year or 2 years, the way it works currently. And then the final report has all the receipts and all of those details. And just a couple of quick examples. First is there was a grant that was given to the Grape Growers Association to do a vineyard study a survey on how many grapes we had and how many grapes we needed to get to that 51% that we talked about earlier. There was a economic impact study that was commissioned. There was a grape pathologist. I mean, this gets into the wonky stuff, but a grape pathologist, a plant science person who was retained over a 3-year period using funding from this, who was housed at the University of Maryland. There was an app that was giving funding to allow growers to basically figure out on their hillsides where the best places to grow grapes were. It had all the and I don't know all the nomenclature, but all the geolocation data, soil aspect, everything else to say this here, this is a good spot for these grape varieties, that over there, not so good. So it's projects like that, in addition to promotions and other things to try to grow market share and encourage tourism. But it is in line with the grants that we've seen from USDA and the National, Federal Commerce Department, where it's a strict application. There is oversight. There's an annual report. And I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Yeah.
Delegate Howard, if you have additional,
So,
if you're not done, after you use Delegate Walker.
okay, so real quick, so these grants are directed, so we get this money, and then sort of walk me through this very quickly. We get this money, there's a board and a commission. I'm sorry, Brad, go ahead.
So the money comes into the fund is generated by the excise tax collected on Maryland produced alcohol that also is sold in Maryland, because obviously the alcohol that's sold out of the state, the excise tax is collected from that state.
Right.
And then that money gets sent to the fund. It'll get redirected away from the general fund. It gets sent to the fund the way it does today for the wine and grape promotion fund for wine sold in Maryland and produced in Maryland. This would just include the beer and the spirits produced and sold in Maryland. And then the commission will receive applications for grants from that fund. And the commission will go through those applications and determine which ones are eligible applicants, which ones are not eligible applicants, and which uses for the funds are eligible or not eligible, and then award based upon merit, I suppose, the way it works today. And then at that point, it's to what Kevin was talking about, how the money is eventually doled out. But there's clear oversight. Again, there's a member from the House and the Senate and the administration, and they're the ones that are effectively making that decision.
Where do all the other people on this commission, where do they come from?
So the commission today will consist of growers, along with the members I already talked about. They're grower members. There are wine industry members, and then this would just propose to include beer industry and distilled spirits industry, along with making sure that someone from the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission is on it.
I'm not trying to be overly, obtuse here. I'm envisioning a Waterman versus Chesapeake Bay Foundation, like we have now in some of these oyster committees, where you have 3 different bodies that, although in the same industry, are competing for dollars. And I'm wondering how we're going to compose this. What, is it going to be equal representation from all of those groups? So that's where my concern comes from. I mean, they're a little bit the same, but they're not.
It's a great point to make. And what I'll say to that is there is 100% support from the entire industry. And there's a clear understanding. I'll tell you, the one industry that frankly could be the ones that feel like there's encroachment would be the wine industry today, right? Because they already have a fund. It doesn't include the beer industry. It doesn't include the distilled spirits industry, but they are gung-ho about this because they understand that this is all about promoting the small manufacturing industry in the state of Maryland across the board.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Brad. I appreciate all your answers. But
of course, thank you, Delegate.
Delegate Walker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to see that list, if we can. Kevin or Brad, get it to me. And I know,
Sure.
Brad, you and I, we talked offline a little bit. How much is going to different tourism departments? Do we have a percentage which goes towards tourism?
Kevin, do you have the numbers yet, or
I don't have the full numbers. I pulled we're still waiting on a list from the Department of Ag for some of the older ones, but I've got the last 5 or 6 years.
That's what, if you get that to me, I'd like to take a look at that.
Absolutely.
Can you share that with all of us?
Yeah, of course. We'll make sure we circulate everything to the committee.
Yep.
Okay, I actually have a question or more of a clarification. And because everything, at least in my lifetime, whether it's legislatively or personal, when I hear something that's really, sounds really good, I feel like there's always something, just I'm playing devil's advocate. So this is no disrespect to the proponents of the legislation whatsoever. This is me with a actual inquiry. And with that said, what would be the opposite, who or what would be the opposition, if any? And looking at the panelists that are attending here, I'm going to ask, because everyone else is a member, besides Brad and Kevin, I don't know, Steve, Nick, anybody else on here, or Jeff or Bob? I'm asking anybody here who might have an answer to my inquiry, is that if there was opposition to this bill, what would it be and how so? Because right now it sounds pretty good. So I'm just, nobody?
The only thing that we did note is that although we're still having revenues stay within the state, we are coming close to the ceiling of where we would need permission from leadership in order to move forward on the bill in terms of fiscal impact. The excise taxes are already collected. The thing is, instead of going into the general fund, they'd be going into special fund. So my understanding is leadership is supportive of this, but we need to get that written.
Got it. Okay. I was just looking at all the, there's a.
In terms of policy, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, so very important, pertinent information to know. Thank you for that. But I just still, in point of personal privilege, if Miss Ramey Eck, I'm asking people who are here with us today, if this issue is in any way
Dr. Eck.
Negative impact or otherwise. I want to hear both sides if there is a negative side. There may not be one. I'm just asking if there's one.
Madam Chair, it's Bob Douglas. The
Mr.
distributors
Douglas,
don't.
could you show your face, please? We're being recorded.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. How do I look? Besides too much sun.
Oh, there you go. Okay. I was like, it was
the
a
sun
black
coming
screen.
in through the window. I represent wine and spirit distributors, and we don't detect any concern about the bill.
Oh, all righty. Oh, Mr. Kelly, yes. Oh, Jeff, you're with us. Hey. Please. You're muted.
Yeah.
Even though you don't have a sign.
I'm sorry, better?
Yeah.
No, thank you. I've been on the Wine and Grape Commission for probably the last 12 years or so. And since this fund has been in existence, I've been a part of that as well. I think we have a pretty robust system of scoring applicants that come in. We get quite a variety of them. It's not that much money. We have a pretty decent system of scoring them. There's usually a pretty robust conversation about how that money and how the scores are being defended as well. And there are just a whole host of programs that are funded as a result of this. I think years ago, there was one about perhaps new people who wanted to become grape growers, a class on how to do that so that they could start to learn how to do it, just to build up the amount of people that were producing fruit for Maryland product. Having been in this program all that time, the only issues, but not even issues really, but our concerns are from people who don't get the funding, because we can only pick so many. We can't pick everybody. So I've not experienced one negative side of this, with the exception that perhaps the state just isn't getting the excise tax, that it's being rerouted to elements of the industry to better this. I've not experienced one negative side effect of it.
Great. Thank you for that. Thomas, did you want to, or you good? Okay. All right. Any other questions? Seeing none. Okay. Everyone has had their inquiry
I like
answered.
that, Chris. You don't come in here sleeping. You're going to be in the voting session. We may call you out on any time. Manus, Steve, Brad. Hey, keep your head on a swivel, as we say in football.
Oh, Vice Chair Walker, you're a hoot. Okay, so this next one, again, I encourage, and no one apologize for asking a lot of questions. That's what we're here for. House Bill 867, which is Delegate Eversole's bill, the ready-to-drink cocktail.
That was heard in Ways and Means as the primary committee. We had Delegates Walker and Arentz in attendance. I listened.
I watched it
well.
after the fact. I forgot.
Yeah, but this is the one that would take ready-to-drink cocktails made with spirits, which are currently taxed as if they were spirits, and changes their tax rate down to the equivalent of wine.
Somebody give me the bill number again.
House Bill 867. There were some pretty significant questions from our two members who were in attendance.
I will say, to initiate the debate discussion, when I watched it after the fact, I watched it in its entirety. And I do know this is something very simple, but I do believe there was a proponent who was saying alcohol is alcohol, blah, blah, blah. I will say, those of you who know me, I like my spirits and my cocktails. Having said that, I definitely think there's a huge difference between the I want to call it R2D2, but the RTC, whatever you call this thing, the
RTD, ready to drink.
The frizzy, what is it? Frizzy, busy, truly, high noons. And so that's what we're talking about, right? Those drinks to bring down to the equivalent of, is it wine? Was it right?
Yeah, 40 cents.
There's a big difference between that and that, but that's just me putting that out there. But I know there's more. Delegate Brooks.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, I didn't look at that hearing, but I'm curious why they would want to reduce the taxes down to that of wine, because with alcohol, you're talking about a much higher proof. Wine is about what, 12%, and alcohol, whiskey is 40%. You know, so normally
that was kind of my thing. I will say there was an argument that to help promote the product, but they're flying off the shelves.
Oh yeah, we don't have a problem selling alcohol. And when I worked for the private industry, you know, way back in the day, you know, the federal government would tax it based on proof gallons, so that whatever percent of alcohol in there, that's what you pay the taxes on. So
in all fairness,
make a lot of sense. And then I looked at the fiscal note on that too. We're going to be losing quite a bit of revenue. So,
in all fairness, if I can, the part of the argument, Delegate Brooks, was, you know, these drinks don't have as much alcohol as the typical, you know, Jack Daniels straight up or whatever, because they're watered down. That was a defense. But the other question you brought up, I think we asked that too. Can I ask, did Ways and Means make a move on that yet, Bob?
No, sir.
Yeah. I can't
but
see.
It's a matter of discussion, and there were significant policy implications because it comes in, it looks like a simple change the number bill, but what this is actually doing is treating these ready to drink preparations almost as if they were a fourth category. I mean, as some people around this table know, there's been significant discussion over the past few years of what you do with the things that are not traditional wine, beer, or spirits, but are rather these prepackaged drinks that may cross different lines. Some of them may be flavored differently. And it's been rather an interesting question. Ultimately, I'd like to see where we would go probably out of the ATC, what their views might be as to what the how these preparations should be treated.
Delegate Arentz.
Yeah, it's a big profit bill for them. I mean, that's if you reduce that, I even asked the question, what's this going to do to the end users? They're going to bring the prices down. And that was a vague answer they gave me. I mean, I'd like to see all the taxes come down. I mean, I'd like to see you do that, and you're going to help everybody with a lower tax rate on everything. But it was interesting that they didn't want to lower it all the way down. They just wanted to lower it some of the way down, which was kind of to match wine even. It seemed like an odd bill. And I get why they would do it. If I was a business, I don't want to pay taxes either. But it is, as the good chairman just said, this stuff is flying off the market. I mean, my daughter comes over to the house, I get 2 cases of that left in my refrigerator. So, and I don't drink it because I'm not like that. So. But it's a bill that needs a lot of looking at, I think, because I need to understand this a little bit deeper. So.
Yeah. Delegate Branch.
I think Delegate Aaron said what I was thinking of saying. And next thing we'll be looking at is mixed drinks and what that might be. But so many is so, like they said, they're flying off the shelf. They're mixed in teas. I went to buy Arnold Palmer the other day and had to slow my roll because it was one that was of alcohol content. So it was in the same kind of container. So I'm just saying that they're flying off the shelves, and we're not in the business of trying to figure that out. So I think alcohol is alcohol, and drinks, spirits are spirits, and mixed drinks are mixed drinks. Thank you.
Delegate Carey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hey, Bob, what happens to me, if you start to if you do this, what happens down the road? To me, is this like the proverbial camel's nose under the tent in some way?
What I would say is it's up to you how you choose to categorize them. Some of the arguments against the bill dealt with the way, first of all, the way we've traditionally dealt with these drinks, and also the fact that the feds are not exactly moving in the same direction. We've typically modeled our state characterization of these drinks the same way the feds do. Okay. But again, it's a policy call for you all.
Is there a precedent, Bob?
The only things we've had bills dealing with, say, mead, for example, which was to be treated as, whether that's treated as a wine or as a beer. We had a couple of bills that died over the past few years from Senator Lee on shoju or a soji.
Soju.
Yeah, soju.
Soju and sake.
Sake, but this is soju, wanting to treat it as wine, but at 35 proof or 50 or higher. You all didn't go along with that.
That's actually helpful. I actually meant, but that's helpful now that you've said it. I was actually referring to nationwide,
yeah.
Okay. Riz, you said yes.
There are some states have, but I think the advocates probably, or the representatives on both sides, probably have a better history than I do as to what's happened in other states.
Okay. Delegate Aronson Branch, you still have more questions, or you good? Delegate Walker.
Yeah, and Bob, correct me, during the hearing, we asked them what percentage of how much money would the state be losing? And they didn't have the exact numbers because they really didn't know how many of these have been sold, right?
They were unable to disaggregate the sales of the RTD, the ready to drink items from other sales. I don't know if that information will be available either through the controller or through the ATC, but we did not have the numbers. Numbers that were being thrown around in the hearing were not exactly small.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised if it had made out of Ways and Means. That would shock me. But it's I don't think we need to. But I don't know. Are we trying? You're just trying to have discussion on it. You're trying to vote. I think.
No. These three bills that we're discussing at length, I am encouraging the debate, but I am holding all three for the next meeting. Delegate Aaron, did you have another question? I'm sorry, Delegate Walker. Were you finished? Delegate Walker, were you okay? Delegate Aarons?
Bob mentioned a number, and I have a thing, a note here, lost to the treasury.
We like your head, Steve.
It's bright.
You know what?
Oh, I thought that was a light bulb.
It's a great idea.
No, I see this as funny. I
have to make it funny.
My hair, and it's fun. But anyway, the number they were throwing around was like $21 million, and it decreased by 5%. And I mean, their volume growth has been over 100% per year. And it's just, I tell you what, I don't know how we do this, but I'd like to dig deeper into this bill because it's interesting. And like I said, it's just an interesting bill. And I think if you're going to grow a business, you may as well grow them all. And if you're going to try to grow them by selling more, I don't know if selling more of something is a great thing, but somebody once said this, and maybe it was Bird Dog Wheeler, a famous Budweiser guy over here. He says, you can make all the draft beer you want, but you're only going to sell so much draft beer. So, and that's something I think we need to be a little bit aware of. What do we want to help? What market do we want to help here, or do we want to keep it fair and reasonable?
Gotcha. Delegate Howard.
That's
just like to
Yes.
journalize bird dog wheeler. That's the first time I've ever heard a bird dog wheeler quote anywhere in life, let alone this subcommittee. Thank you.
Bird dog Wheeler's quite the musician over on my side of the world. So.
And at some point, I need Ned to explain to me the camel's nose under the tent. I've never heard that before.
Really?
Never heard
No.
that's statement. You know, once you see the camel's nose under the tent, the next thing you know, the whole
It's kind of
camel
like slippery slope.
slippery slope.
It's like my dog.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Bob had mentioned Mr. Akros earlier, and Tom, you look like you wanted to, did you want to mention something? I saw Bob mention you, and you look like you unmuted yourself. Did you want?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
This is Tom Akros with the Alcohol Tobacco Committee. The Alcohol Tobacco Commission. The Alcohol Tobacco Commission views this bill as a tax category only. Currently, this product is taxed at $1.50 for each gallon for 39.63 cents for each liter. This would bring it down to the 40 cents that is currently taxed under wine. Because this product could be defined as a wine or a distilled spirit, only certain retailers are allowed to sell it. For instance, in Prince George's County, there are Class A beer licensees who can't sell this product because it's not considered a beer. Same thing with distributors. They can sell this product because it's defined as a wine or a spirit. So only certain distributors can sell this product. I do not have the information in regards to specifically how much monies are generated due to the sales of these products. I believe that would be a comptroller question, but I can circle back with you, Madam Chair, to provide that information.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Akros. Are there any other questions or inquiries, discussion? Great, seeing none. The last bill we need to discuss is Delegate Watson's bill, which is the manufacturer's licenses and offsite permit sunset extension. Bob, can you just give the background for the members?
Sure. This is the one, House 550 is a short extension of the delivery provisions, the direct delivery and offsite delivery provisions that were done last year as a COVID response to allow manufacturers to who no longer had access to people coming to their tap rooms or their tasting rooms to let them sell directly or have something like Route 9 clothing go out and have a delivery made to consumers directly. And the current law has that closing off at the end of December of this year, whereas the other provision that we had that was a temporary COVID thing actually goes until the end of next June. There actually is an amendment that the chair proposed, because last year's bill, while it allowed the manufacturers to do the delivery, also changed the offsite permit system. And so the chairman has an amendment that would take the sunset off of the change in the offsite permit system, but and then keep the bill as it is to have the short extension of the manufacturer's delivery. In addition to that, there was some language that came over on the Senate bill last year that we would not have used last year because we were sunsetting the whole thing at the end of December, and that is where you have a small brewery, a Class 5, Class 7, or Class 8 brewer at an offsite event to allow them to sell up to 288 ounces of their own product for off-premises consumption. So if you take the sunset off of the offsite permit provisions, it would make sense to take that language as it was done last year. And you'll find that in your amendment packet. It's Amendment House Bill 0550/393/923/1. As I say, it's just taking the deal that was in last year's bill, which also had some gallonage changes, by taking the sunset off of those and then having the the case sales go forward for those smaller producers.
Gotcha. Any discussion?
Now that I
Question?
put everyone to sleep.
Do you have a reprint of that by chance?
I can get you one. Actually, let me just, if you don't mind, I can actually, if I bring up the document, I can actually share screen. How about that?
Thank you.
Okay. And okay, it's hello computer. Yeah. Let's see, reprint.
While you're doing that, Delegate Branch.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Chairman. Since we're talking about this bill, I recall that we actually set it for the date that 2022, because we wanted to be able to come back to see what, if anything, had occurred, if the liquor sales had gone down, if COVID was still impacting everyone and people were not going out to buy beer or spirits. We just wanted to see what those numbers were. That's what the committee wanted to do, and that's what we explained to everybody that we were doing, is just trying to see where we're going with it, because if the numbers are going up or if the numbers are still not better than last year, then naturally we know that we need to extend it. So I spoke with Kevin today, and they're supposed to be providing the committee with what the differences are from when we imposed the sunset or the legislation up to now for us to make that consideration.
Oh, great.
Okay, I'm just, Madam Chair, I'm sharing on screen the reprint of the language that would be added going forward for those smaller producers who'd be, or those brewers rather, who'd be selling beer at an offset permit. This is actually codified in a different section than they were in last year's bill, but that's because this is going into the offsite permit law, as opposed to the other, last year it was in the additional licenses provision, but this is actually just an additional privilege under the permit, so, or a limitation on the privilege under the permit. So it seemed to be a better place to codify it. Otherwise, the concept is the same. And the way we extend this, as I go up here, you'll see at the very top of the screen here, this is in the current bill, and this is one of the uncodified. This is the emergency measure and sunset from last year's legislation. If instead of saying the whole thing sunsets, we say Section 3 sunsets, then that means that's going to take out the manufacturer's direct delivery provisions, but let the offsite permit provisions continue. And then we would also be adding, whenever the sunset ends, add in the stuff on what the brewers can sell at their. Okay, I did run this for technical reasons past the ATC, but of course they're not here to talk about the policy. They're just to make sure it's technically correct.
Gotcha.
And Madam Chair, if I can obviously take some time with clients just to see what this is doing. I think I know what this is doing. I think it's just codifying the agreement that was reached with MSLBA and the wholesalers that we worked on 2 years ago.
Yep.
And unfortunately, what happened was that bill was heard in the Senate and crossed over and just didn't have a chance to be heard in the House. We were actually trying to get your committee a reprieve from our issues, unless it was really vitally necessary. And it crossed over, but right as it crossed over, COVID hit. So
right.
We didn't have an opportunity to have the conversation. But we did come to terms with the wholesalers and retailers on this language. So there was other language from a couple of years ago too, Bob, that was just clarifying numbers to be consistent.
I think if you take a look at the bill that passed last year, you will find that along with the offsite permit, those numbers are in there. But I didn't want to put 10 pages of amendment into this bill. when all we really need to do is adjust the sunset provision.
Okay, I'll take a look at it. Thank you,
Yeah,
Bob.
feel free. Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Okay.
you,
Thank you,
Bob.
Madam Chair.
Anybody need to see this text anymore?
Bob, if you
Yes,
wouldn't
sir.
mind just emailing it, or I can, just so I have it so I can review also.
Okay, let me email
Why don't you just email the group invite for the.
Yeah, I'll email the reprint to everybody who
Yeah.
got the link for this.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Appreciate
As I say, I didn't reprint chapter 359 and 360 because that's just another 10 pages of language we don't need to redo. This is because what it did is it restructured the offsite permit system. It made the manufacturer's licenses caps rather than absolute numbers for fees. And then it also changed the gallonage requirements. That was the deal from 2 years ago. But that was all within sections 1 and 2 of that bill. Section 3 was separate, and section 3 was the manufacturer's delivery that has been, they really wanted to sunset, but the House just said, sunset the whole darn thing.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. The Senate, and part of what we were talking about, some of these things we definitely understood were going to be sunset, and some were just part of an agreement that we thought were going to be permanent. But
Right.
With everything that happened, I understood why everything got sunset. So this is just clarifying the previous.
Yeah, take a look at the Senate bill from last year, sections 1 and 2. Yep. Those would be what continue.
Thank you, Bob.
Got it.
Are there any questions, commentary, discussion from the members? I will say, Bob, before we're able to do this, so members, what I would like to do, I'm looking over the docket. So out of 19 bills, we moved 9. We held 10, 3 of which I already knew I was going to hold because I wanted the study debate on the last 3. The others, my fellow colleagues and members held. So for those of you who requested to hold the bill, if you would kindly do your research and get your questions answered, I would like to, if possible, Bob, if we could meet a week from today, if that's possible. I would like to have another meeting next Monday, which is the 7th.
Correct.
And by that time, I would like to have all the issues and questions that were raised to be resolved so that we can move forward, whether they're up or down.
Yeah, let me just check with my fellow staff to make sure that we don't have any conflicting subcommittees,
Right.
but we can
Right.
find a spot to do that.
Right.
Hey, there's Mr. Anderton visiting Mr.
Who?
Walker,
What's up, Brad?
the fellow from the Lowell Shore.
With that said, I see you, Delegate Branch. I just wanted to put it out there so that the members would have in their minds that I'd like to meet within the week. I really don't want to hold things up too much longer. With that said, Delegate Branch.
Yeah, I'd just like to make sure that Kevin and Brad, if you can get us those numbers as to kind of what alcohol has done up to beer has done up to now, I think that would be helpful for the committee.
We'll make sure to get those. In fact, the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission published a report that I've been going through to kind of clarify the numbers. So
okay,
I'll make sure I get that. Yep.
Great. So with that said, members, just keep in mind, it potentially could be the 7th. It depends on council, our staff. Thank you so much, staff and everyone. And for those who are here on the call with us who aren't members, keep that in mind as well. And if you have information you would like the members to have, please don't wait till the 11th hour so that we can move forward. If it is Monday, indeed Monday, but that's how soon I would like to meet. If not sooner than that, but hopefully not too much later than that. But just to keep everyone abreast. So I think that's everything.
Do our best.
Again, just wanted to put it out there, would like to meet sooner than later. And for the members, in case you might have questions that the folks here on here, don't forget the ATC, Mr. Akris and Mr. Young are at your disposal as well. Delegate Howard.
We're getting those numbers that Jay asked for, right?
So I was saying that for those who said they would provide the pertinent information that was requested of them, please do so within the week for the members. Greatly appreciate that. With that said, is there anything for the good of the order? With that said, thank you so much, Erica, Tiffany, and Bob. And to everyone who participated, alcohol meeting is adjourned. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hello.